welcome to episode 84 of Toke Signals TV, where we bring you the biggest in cannabis and hemp news stories every week. I'm Steve Elliott, the editor at tokesignals.com, and I'll be guiding you through the news. First of all, let's take a look at our bud pick of the week. We have some blue afgoo here. Got this right here in my hometown of Kingston, Washington at Integrative Medicine. It's nice to have that convenience. This medicine costs $12 a gram for these beautiful flowers, and well worth it. Let's do the news now, shall we? In the United States this week, we learned that increasing percentages of Americans are ready for legal marijuana. A new Harris poll finds that the growing acceptability of cannabis among state lawmakers reflects attitudinal shifts amongst the general American public since 2011. Support for the legalization of marijuana for both medical treatment and recreational use has increased by 7 percentage points over the past 4 years. Currently, 4 in 5 adults, 81%, favor legalizing marijuana for medical use, up from 2011 when 3/4 of Americans, 74%, indicated the same opinion. Meanwhile, according to Harris, half of Americans are supportive of legalizing marijuana for recreational use, 49%, up from the 2/5, 42%, who felt that way in 2011. Nearly 9 in 10 Democrats and independents are in favor of legalizing marijuana for medical treatment, 87% and 86% respectively, and more than half support recreational use, 58% and 55% respectively. While a majority, albeit a slimmer one, of Republicans also support the legalization of medical marijuana, 69% support, 23% oppose. A similar majority opposes legalizing marijuana for recreational use among Republicans, with 27% supporting and 65% opposing. These are some of the results of the Harris poll of 2,221 U.S. adults surveyed online between February 11th and 17th. As for who should be making the big legalization decision, 44% favor each state resolving the issue for itself, while 35% favor a single law handed down by the federal government. In keeping with their party's states' rights principles, 51% of Republicans believe the decision should be made at the state level, while 3 in 10, 30%, support a nationwide federal ruling. Independents share similar sentiments, though by a smaller margin. 47% state versus 35% federal. Meanwhile, Democrats are the most divided of the bunch. A 2/5 plurality, 42%, believe it should be a federal decision that applies to all the states, while 37% would prefer state-by-state decision-making when it comes to the legalization of cannabis. When asked about the effects of legalizing marijuana, expectations haven't changed much since 2011. Then and now, 3/4 of adults, 75%, expect tax revenues will increase after legalization. 7 in 10 Americans believe the amount of marijuana used will increase, 68% then, 70% now, along with the number of people who use marijuana, 68% then, 69% now. A majority of Americans also anticipate an increase in the consistency and standardization of the marijuana used, 59% in 2011 and 2015. Meanwhile, expectations are split when it comes to the effect that legalization will have on the amount of money spent on prisons and prisoners and on the crime rate. 36% of adults anticipate a decrease in prison spending, while 2 in 10 believe decriminalized marijuana will cause an increase in prison spending, 20%, or no change at all, 22%. In addition, a third of Americans, 34%, believe the crime rate will decrease, while 28% feel crime will increase and 22% anticipate no change at all in the crime rate. Aside from a 13-year blip known as Prohibition, citizens of the United States have legally sold and consumed alcohol since the country's founding. In contrast, for a long time in our nation's history now, selling and using marijuana have been illegal since 1937. When asked whether alcohol or marijuana is more problematic, majorities feel neither is more or less hazardous. However, when focusing on those who pointed out one or the other specifically, marijuana is consistently seen as less dangerous or harmful than alcohol. On the matter of being a gateway to other drugs, while a plurality still feels this describes both equally at 36%, after that there is equal support for it being either a better description of marijuana, 22%, or not an accurate description of either substance at 21%. Americans are more divided when it comes to which is most dangerous to use, even in moderation. 32% say both alcohol and marijuana are equally dangerous in moderation, while 31% say neither is. In Oregon this week, we have a call to action. Medical marijuana in Oregon is being undermined by Senate Bill 964. Yeah, in a scenario which is becoming sadly familiar, another state, hello Washington, is using the pretext of recreational marijuana legalization in an attempt to shut down medical marijuana facilities. Some politicians in Salem, Oregon want to undermine state voters by making it easy to ban medical marijuana dispensaries, according to New Approach Oregon. If Senate Bill 964 passes, city councils and county commissions could arbitrarily shut down medical marijuana facilities without a vote of the people. That's not the policy Oregonians voted for when passing Measure 91 with more than 56% of the vote, reads an email from New Approach Oregon. We promise to protect medical marijuana patients who depend on local dispensaries to get life-saving medicine. But SB 964 would partially dismantle Oregon's medical marijuana program. It would invite expensive lawsuits that could disrupt implementation of legalization Measure 91, and it would feed the criminal market. SB 964 is sponsored by Democratic Senator Jenny Burdick and Republican Senator Jeff Cruz. Both the Oregonian and the Register Guard newspapers have published editorials calling for a public vote, as Measure 91 allows. New Approach Oregon is asking Oregon residents to please send emails to Senate and House Democrats right now. All of those email addresses that you need to email to are in the Hemp News story. You should tell the Senate and House Democrats that they should oppose Senate Bill 964 because it is against the will of the voters. Under Measure 91, which 56% of Oregonians approved, voters, not politicians, get to decide if state-regulated marijuana businesses can be banned in a particular jurisdiction. In Indiana this week, a marijuana-based religion is growing like a weed. Do you use cannabis every day religiously? So does Indiana's Bill Levin, and he's taken advantage of that state's controversial Religious Freedom Restoration Act, the RFRA, passed to legalize discrimination against gays in restaurants and other establishments, to offer a bold test of the law's ban on government restraints on the exercise of religion. Adherents of the recently established First Church of Cannabis worship and smoke marijuana, reports Stephen Nelson at U.S. News and World Report, which is illegal to grow, use, or possess under Indiana law. Now, it's unclear if local police and prosecutors will take action against the church or accept claims the conduct is protected by the RFRA. We'll know more about that after the church's first worship service, scheduled for July the 1st, the same day the RFRA takes effect. Levin said he's trying to find a church building willing to lease him space. He said the scheduled July 1 service will happen come hell or high water, and that he will consider any suitable alternative, including religious campgrounds, private land, or even a public park. The church has raised more than $10,000 on the crowdfunding site GoFundMe. Levin said the church's Facebook page has 31,000 followers, including a core group of local activists sure to attend the service. The new religion apparently owes its existence to a March 23rd blog post from attorney and radio host Abdul Hakim Shabazz on his site indiepolitics.org, in which Shabazz pointed out the RFRA may unintentionally allow for the religious use of cannabis. Shabazz said he plans to attend the service if it happens, although he personally doesn't use marijuana. Opponents of the RFRA say that it legalizes religion-based discrimination, particularly against gay and transgender people. The Republican-led state government approved the law with the apparent intention of protecting religious business owners from having to serve same-sex couples with cake, photographers, or flowers after the court-ordered legalization of such marriages. Governor Mike Pence, a Republican, claimed the intent of the law was not to harm sexual minorities. His office did not immediately comment on Levin's Church of Cannabis plans. The office of Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard also declined to comment. Spokespeople for the Indianapolis Police Department did not respond to requests for comment. A member of the Marion County Sheriff's Office said it won't be involved in enforcement unless the event happens on county or city property. Church members would have a hard time winning if it goes to court, according to First Amendment expert Eugene Volokh, a law professor at UCLA. This is a new argument, but it has almost uniformly been rejected, Volokh said. Levin confidently predicts there will be no problems with police during his church's first service. I don't think anyone is going to come into the church, he said. Even right-wing conservatives have smiled at me and said, do it. In Pennsylvania this week, the Senate approved a medical marijuana bill. The Pennsylvania Senate on Tuesday voted 40-7 to approve a bill that would make it legal for seriously ill patients to use marijuana to treat their conditions with recommendations from their doctors. That bill will now go to the Pennsylvania House for consideration. Senate Bill 3, sponsored by Senator Mike Fulmer, a Republican from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, would allow qualified patients to obtain medical marijuana from a limited number of licensed, regulated dispensaries located throughout the state. Smoking wouldn't be permitted under the restrictive language of the bill, but patients could consume marijuana in edible form, and patients with certain conditions could consume it through vaporization. Patients under the age of 18 would be required to have parental consent in order to take part in the program. Now, unfortunately, home cultivation wouldn't be allowed under the bill, depriving many fixed-income patients of an economical way to provide their own medicine. Pennsylvanians suffering from cancer, seizures, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, cachexia wasting syndrome, Parkinson's, traumatic brain injury, post-concussion syndrome, multiple sclerosis, SCA, post-traumatic stress disorder, severe fibromyalgia, HIV, AIDS, glaucoma, Crohn's disease, diabetes, and chronic pain would be eligible for the program with a recommendation from their doctor. Seriously ill Pennsylvanians are one step closer to finding relief with the passage of SB 3 in the Senate, said Karen O'Keefe, Director of State Policies for the Marijuana Policy Project. We commend the senators for supporting this compassionate, sensible legislation. Representatives in the House should listen to the vast majority of their constituents who think people should have safe access to the medicine that works for them without being treated like criminals, O'Keefe said. This bill has had many individuals working hard to help the broadest group of people we possibly can without further delay, said Senator Fulmer. I am so thankful for the additional amendments offered by my colleagues to expand the bill even further to help Pennsylvania's suffering patients. The amendments approved by the full Senate and now included in Senate Bill 3 are vaporization for cancer, PTSD, and seizures. Chronic or intractable pain are now included conditions. Diabetes is an included condition, and Crohn's disease is included. In the United States this week, President Obama nominated Chuck Rosenberg to head the beleaguered Drug Enforcement Administration. A senior FBI official and former U.S. attorney, Chuck Rosenberg, has been selected by President Obama as interim director of the DEA. Rosenberg has served as the chief of staff to the FBI director, James Comey, for the past 18 months. Outgoing DEA head Michelle Leonhardt announced her retirement last month in the wake of numerous scandals. She came under intense criticism for opposing the Obama administration's efforts to reform mandatory minimum sentencing laws and for opposing the administration's hands-off approach to the 4 states that have approved legal regulation of marijuana. Now, the DEA has existed for more than 40 years, but little attention has been given to the role the agency played in fueling mass incarceration, racial disparities, their surveillance state, and other drug war problems. Congress has rarely scrutinized the agency, its actions, or its budget, instead showing remarkable deference to the DEA's administrator. That has started to change recently, though, and Leonhardt's departure was seen as an opportunity to appoint someone who will overhaul the agency and support reform. The new DEA chief has a tough job ahead, said Bill Piper, Director of National Affairs for the Drug Policy Alliance. We hope senators scrutinize Rosenberg's record to ensure that he's in line with the political consensus for scaling back mass incarceration and the worst harms of the drug war. The Drug Policy Alliance's online campaign has raised awareness of the damage the DEA is causing, and the organization and its allies have been working with members of Congress to cut the agency's budget and reduce its power. Drug prohibition, like alcohol prohibition, breeds crime, corruption, and violence, and creates a situation where law enforcement officers must risk their lives in a fight that can't be won, said Ethan Nadelman, Executive Director of the DPA. It's time to reform not just the DEA, but broader U.S. and global drug policy. The optimal drug policy would reduce the role of criminalization and the criminal justice system in drug control to the greatest extent possible, while protecting public safety and health, Nadelman said. On Toke Signals this week, we have a story, Medical Cannabis Patient Protection Initiative 1372 gaining momentum in Washington. With 20 co-sponsors for I-1372 so far, the word about the initiative aimed at protecting medical marijuana patients in Washington state is spreading like wildfire on Facebook and social media. The week before the signing of Senate Bill 5052, word about I-1372 began spreading quickly, said sponsor Kirk Ludden. With Governor Inslee signing SB 5052, he may have just pushed the people to qualify I-1372 and be the champions for patients once again in this state. If this happens, I-1372 will supersede SB 5052, and the medical cannabis community will have a fair and transparent board to regulate the market. As more volunteers gather signatures, a concern by some voters are that the information will be used to create a database. Kirk says he's the one who gets all the petitions, and he only checks for a printed name and a signature. He said he has no time nor desire to create a database, and that's not going to happen. If you'd like to know how you can help, all the information is in the article on tokesignals.com. Medical Cannabis Patient Protection Initiative 1372, gaining momentum in Washington. Finally this week, in the United States, the Bush series of vaporizers has been released in conjunction with Snoop Dogg's new album. Yeah, Snoop Dogg sure knows how to do an album release up nice and proper. Not only is he collaborating with vaporizer powerhouse Grenco Science, coordinating the release of a like-named Bush vape pen with his new album, but when consumers buy the Bush G Pro vaporizer set, it will come with an included digital download of Snoop's new release. In celebration of today's release of Snoop's new album, Bush, Grenco Science proudly unveils the Snoop Dogg Bush G Pro vaporizer in G Slim for ground material. The clearly thrilled company gushes in a Tuesday press release. The G Pro vaporizer comes with a digital download of Bush, making it the first release of its kind, bundling music with a vaporizer set. The album is available both digitally and physically across North America, and it was executive produced by multiple Grammy Award-winning Pharrell Williams, the happy guy. I guess we know why he's so happy now. And is a creative partnership between Doggy Style Records, I Am Other, and Columbia Records. The Bush series continues the industry-leading functionality Grenco Science products are known for, with a lively, flourishing garden imagery inspired by Snoop Dogg's Bush album artwork, at least according to the company's press release. Meanwhile, Snoop himself had something to say. He says, for the first time ever, each G Pro package will include a download card to his new album. And if that isn't a reason to check out Snoop's new release, I can't think of a better one. I hope you decide to join us again next week. Until then, stay lifted. See you then.